Hey there, and welcome back to the channel and another part of this I guess I could start saying 1936/1937 Epiphone Triumph. Let me kind of give you a little bit of background while I let you look at the guitar. I went and I found, which I'll put a link in the description of this video, I found an unofficial Epiphone registry, and it's a guy that I think is based out of New York, if I'm not mistaken. I'm kind of going off of my head here. I had a couple of emails back and forth and found out some more information about the guitar, and he had already in just from my very first video, my introductory video was posted, and within the first couple of days it was online, he had found it and added my guitar to the registry, and he has it listed as a 1936, and the other database that I found and searched listed it as a 1937. Well, he said that this guitar was was probably started, the build for this guitar was started in 1936 and then finished and sold in 1937. So he said 36, 37, probably either one would be correct. Anyway, I'm letting you get a good look at the guitar here. We're going to spend our time right here on this fretboard because I've got some stuff ordered that hasn't come in yet. So I'm waiting for all of that. But again, you can see the finish that just came up really nice and all of that, and I have no doubts that this fretboard is going to come back as nicely. So that's going to be our focus, and I kind of wanted to do this as a before. Let me kind of just zoom in here. You can see how dirty and grungy everything is up and down this fretboard. I don't really see any cracks, so that's a good thing. So we don't have to do any repairs or anything like that. I've taken my fret hammer and tapped each of the frets just to make sure that none of them are loose or anything like that. But we do have some unevenness and stuff that we have to deal with. So let me get you in the tripod and explain to you what it is that I'm going to do. So hang on and I'll get set up for you. Got you back in the tripod, and hopefully I'm going to be able to work and not block you too much. I may try to work left-handed this way, at least for part of the sanding. I'm not so sure about, you've seen me do the recrowning and all of that though. I've tried to get all of the stuff ready, so I'm kind of ready to go here. And let me grab my straight edge, and I'll kind of show you what we're up against. A couple of things here. Number one, we've got some, and I'm going to rock this straight edge on the frets here. So we've got some frets that are not level, and it's all the way up and down through there, and so I think I need to get level. Now, what I found out, another tidbit of information I found out about this guitar, is there is no truss rod. I did find some publication from back in the 30s when Epiphone was producing these that talked about the build of their necks and all of that, and I may overlay that and put some links to some of that info that I found, just for those of you that might be interested in taking a look and read through it. It's just a little paragraph, and it talks about how they build their necks and how they won't warp and all of that. But there's no truss rod here, so we don't have the ability to add or remove any underbow or overbow that might be in here, so neck relief basically. So what I am doing here, I've got that's zeroed out. Can you see that? I hope. Got my calipers, and I've just got a piece of paper, And it measures at, I'm on the inches, and I'll show this to you. It's super thin, so that's what we're working with. 0.025, between 0.025 and 030, keeps kind of going back and forth there. So that's the thickness of the piece of paper. Now if I take the straight edge and I kind of lay it in the center of the fretboard on the frets, and I hold it on there, and I take this piece of paper, it will kind of goes under, and then it doesn't, then it goes under, and it goes under, and it doesn't. So we've kind of got some of this going on. So I really feel like I need to do some fret leveling, and I've got ready. I've got my 12-inch radius block here, and I told you this this trick. If you use these radius blocks, and I use 320 grit sandpaper kind of as a standard, and if I need to go heavier like to a 220 I can, but the 320 seems to work really well. And then I've got my pieces of 600 cut up here that I'll go through and take the, once I crown them, then the 600 will take the file marks out and then polish and all of that. So that's kind of the deal there. But if you take masking tape, this is just painter's tape, blue painter's tape, and put that on the block, and then put super glue and then the sandpaper, when you're ready to change, you just lift all that off, and that way you're not messing up your block. But that's kind of where we're gonna start. I need to get some levelness, I guess, to these frets, and they're so dirty and dingy, I'm not even gonna color them. Most of the time when you've watched me do this, I need to back you up just a second because I need to get in the desk drawer. So move you just a little bit, sorry about that. I thought I had everything ready, but I don't. But you've seen me do this before, and I've just used this orange marker because it's what I have. You know, if you don't use the orange marker, it'll never work right. No, I'm kidding there, of course. But once I get level, I will remark, and I'm not going to tape this off because the other thing I'm going to do is some cleanup on this fretboard, and you've watched me do this before too, where I take the razor blade and go in between on the fretboard and just scrape all this gunk and all of that, and then oil it with the linseed oil. And I'm going to let you watch a little bit of this. I'm not going to tape the whole thing and video the whole thing. I'm just going to let you watch some of it. The leveling is really not that big a deal. You can tell the guitar, it's been played a little bit, but not a tremendous amount. So what I've got here is the headstock is on flat on the desk, and then the body, of course, is flat on the desk. Again, I don't have a truss rod to be able to make any kind of adjustments. So with a guitar with a truss rod, before I level the frets, I would adjust the truss rod so that this is perfectly as flat as I can get it, and then level and all of that. What I'm hoping is once I level and recrown, and once the strings go on, that it'll pull enough relief into the neck that I won't have to worry about it. Worst case scenario, we'll have to raise the string action down here just a little bit to kind of compensate for any of that. But if we get the frets done correctly, we should be able to get a nice setup. So I'm not overly concerned about it. It's just something I thought I would mention because we don't have a truss rod here. So I'm going to go ahead, and I'm only going to sand as much as I feel I need to. And the block is the same radius as the fretboard, so there's no need to do any of this. It's just back and forth with a nice smooth motion, no downward pressure, because you don't want to take a chance on breaking anything. I will kind of hold the guitar here, but you'll see on the camera, especially down here where these frets are super like mucky and dirty, you'll see as material starts getting removed, and the frets get flatter and flatter. And you know where the high spots are, I'll see those. I can see them touching here and here, but I'm not touching in the middle. So I'm just going to keep sanding here until I get the frets nice and leveled with the 12-inch radius block. And that's all there is to that. I just have to keep going until they're level. So I'll be right back with you when I'm done with this part. Okay, so that little bit of goodness out of the way. The frets are leveled. They're really flat. And again, this kind of stuff it does make a mess. So, you know, if you're gonna do it, you're gonna make a mess and have to clean it up. Now, you can still see, I think, can you see down here? Some of the darkness. So I didn't want to sand anymore. I'm level to, let's see, the body fret. So we got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16th fret. So 17, 18, 19, 20. And actually almost 17. But not going to play up in here. It's just not designed to do that, and I don't play way up in here anyway. You know, if I get much up into here, I'm doing good. So not going to worry about that. I think I'm happy. So I'm good there. Not worried about that at all. I'm not going to tape this fretboard off again because I'm going to use the razor blade when I'm all done with this, and I'm going to scrape. There's a bunch of gunk and all just build up from the years on that. I'll just be a little more careful as I'm marking the frets with the orange. And the reason I put the marker on there is as I'm filing the crown back in, the crown is shaped like, you know, the top part of the marker here. See how it's round? That round shape, dome shape, like that is the fret. You want that dome shape in that just wears better, it plays better, easier, all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to put the crown, file the crown back on with the crowning file. And what I do is I mark with the magic marker, and then as I'm filing, I watch and I try to leave just the tiniest sliver of the magic marker. Just a really thin line. I've showed you that before, but what that does is it maintains the levelness of the frets and then makes the frets wear better. They last longer because there's less surface area for the strings to dig in and all of that. So I'm going to take just a second here very carefully. That's it with the marker. I'm going to use the crowning file, 600 grit sandpaper, polish, and then, now I had started doing, I think I might have shared this in one of the other videos, I've started using this orange pad. You know, this is one of these buffer things that goes on the drill, but I've been doing this entire guitar by hand, the finish and everything. So I think even the polishing of the frets I'm going to go ahead and do by hand. So again, I'm not going to film all that, but I'll do a couple just so you can kind of see the process. That's pretty much what there is to it right there. The crowning file, diamond crowning file, does a really good job of putting the crown back in. And again, I can kind of see in the bright shop light, I can see the really thin part of the marker. So there's a couple of them already done. I just leave that small sliver there. So I'm going to continue on with that, and when I'm done and get ready to go to the next part, I'll fire the camera back up. So I have the crown filed back into the frets, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take 600 grit sandpaper, and this, what the 600 does, it's really good about getting out the file marks, and then when I polish the frets, they'll just shine like a mirror. And again, you've seen me do this, so I'm just going to do a little bit of it. Now, I know I have the fretboard kind of exposed. I don't have it taped off, but that's actually going to be fine. As I'm doing this, it's going to help get some of that junk off of the fretboard anyway. So I'm not concerned about that at all. Again, I'm going to come back with the razor blade and do some major cleanup. So that's about all it takes right there with the 600 grit and those diamond file marks. They just come right out. And actually you could probably go with it with just the 600 grit, but I like to put the polish on there just because I think it helps things a little bit. I just like how it looks. Mainly, that's why I do it. You just have to watch. I mean, you can see where there's any marks that need to be filed a little bit more. I had to get a little rough right there. You saw me kind of spend a little bit more time there than probably one of the frets that had to be filed a little bit more and sanded a little bit more. So and again, when I polish, I may hit this, I may come back and polish these pearl parts. They cleaned up really well up here on the headstock. That is actual pearl inlay. So, and just kind of have to keep turning the sandpaper and all that kind of good stuff, you know, because metal does wear it out, but does a really, really good job of cleaning up the frets, taking out the file marks, and then when the polish goes on, oh my goodness, I'll show you that. All right, I'm going to pause one more time. Just in that time I was yakking, I've done 6 frets. I've got 14 more to go. I'm just going to go ahead and sand them. I'll bring you back when I'm ready to polish. Okay, I'm done with the 600 grit sandpaper. And again, you could just probably leave the frets there, but I like to take it to the next step. And again, I've showed you this a couple of times. Made by Happich semi-chrome polish. I love this stuff. I used it on the entire guitar. I'm going to use it to polish the frets here. And I'm just going to do a couple of them for you. Usually what I do is I'll just dab a little bit on here. And it doesn't take much. This stuff goes a long way. I don't remember how much it is. I ordered it from Amazon. I'm thinking maybe it was $8 or $10 or something like that. I'm going to go ahead and do the whole thing. And again, I'm not at all worried about this fretboard at all. I know some of the polish will get on there and all of that, but trust me, once I scrape it and oil it, that fretboard's gonna look amazing. Gonna really help set off this guitar. So I'm just getting the polish all down through here, and then I'll do a couple of these for you because again, you've seen me do this before, so I'm not going to waste all the airtime. But again, I just take a part of an old towel that I've cut up, wrap it around my finger, like so. And I'm doing these all by hand, so it's just a little bit of old-fashioned elbow grease. That means you gotta push. For those of you that are out there that don't know what it means to work, it means you gotta push. And there's one. Done. There's two done. I'm going to do one more, then I'll bring you handheld and let you look at them. They are super, super shiny. I'll let you look at them compared to one of the other ones. Let me bring you handheld. Hang on, here we go. And see if I can get some reflection in there. There you go, you can see the light. You can see here where I haven't polished, where, right there, how dull it is. And that's not polish on there, that's just the 600 grit, compared to this where the light is just reflecting almost like a mirror. So that's kind of the process. I've done 3 of them already, 17 more to go. And again, I'm gonna just continue on, do the rest of these, and when I get ready to clean up the fretboard, I will bring you along for that part of the process. So I'll be right back with you in just a few minutes. Frets are polished, done with the frets. The only way I would have to touch those again is if we happen to run into issues down the road with setup or something, but I can't imagine that's going to be an issue. All right, next step, at least in this process that I'm doing, I've got a razor blade, brand new razor blade, so it's nice and sharp. And again, I'm going to bring you handheld so you can see a before shot. So you can see the marks and all of that on the fretboard, the dirt and the grime and all up and down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the razor blade and I'm going to scrape through here. And this is one of those things that, I'll put you back on the tripod by the way, it's one of those things that, you know, if you love the sound of nails on a chalkboard, then you'll love doing instrument work because you make a lot of those kinds of noises. If you don't like that, probably not gonna like it so much because there's a lot of scraping, and I think you're gonna be amazed at the difference. There are some finger grooves in this fretboard, and that happens when people don't cut their nails when they're playing. I'm going to try to get as much of that out as I can, just so the fretboard is nice and smooth. It's kind of a deep one there. I don't know if I can get all of that out or not. I don't want to change the shape of the fretboard here. All right, maybe about all I can do there. Again, this really makes a mess, so. And I'm going to come around this way. I might block you. But it's better for me to see. That way. There we go. Especially when I'm up against this edge over here where the nut goes. If the nut was there, then I wouldn't worry about it too much. But all right, I think there's one little spot here me try to work on it a little bit more. Oh yeah, that worked out really well. Take a little material off, but I think that's okay. Again, I'm kind of working off the edge over here. I don't want to break anything, so sorry if I'm blocking the camera there. I just don't want to do a lot of damage or any chip out or anything on the very end of the fretboard. So if you have the guitar nut taken out, then it's a little more, you just have to be a little more careful on that first fret. But I think what I want to do is bring you, and it's not going to hurt these inlays either. Let me go ahead. I'm going to do this one other one. I was going to bring you over, but let me do one that's got an inlay in it just so you can see the difference. I'll show you. I'll show you a before and after. Had some finger grooves again on the 3rd fret, which kind of makes sense, you know, cowboy chords, you know, G, C, and D. That's typical. All right, I think we're at a point where, yeah, that shell looks amazing. So the difference, especially once we put the oil on, the difference in this fretboard is just going to be night and day. But let me bring you handheld. And I did 3 frets. I'll show you the ones that I did. I did the first 3, and then I'll show you the next 3. And actually you can see these 2. Here's the one with the inlay that I did, and then the one with the inlay that I haven't done yet. And again, you kind of got some of these finger grooves going on. 5th fret and down is, you don't have it too much up in here. I don't know if you can see that or not, those little dips. It's kind of like there's some here as well. It's hard to really show it on the camera, but these were like that and maybe even a little worse, and I was able to get all of that out. So I'm going to do the same thing for the rest of these, and then when I get ready to put the oil on, I will bring you back and show you what a difference that's going to make. The linseed oil will do probably, because this being an 80-year-old guitar, I'm guessing it's never, or it hasn't had a drink. I'm not gonna say it's never had a drink of any kind of oil on the fretboard, but my guess is, being 82 years old or so, it's been a long time, and this thing's probably thirsty. So let me finish this up really quickly, and I'll be right back with you when I get ready to put the oil on. Okay, back with you. And I think, if you, being honest and objective, you have to say that looks better already, and I haven't even oiled it yet. So probably going to do a couple of applications of the linseed oil. And what I typically do, in this case, I may wait a little bit longer, but just so you can see, and it doesn't matter, this just happens to be boiled linseed oil. It doesn't matter, you can get any kind of linseed oil will work. This just happens to be boiled, spilling it all over the place, all over the bench. And just, I use a circular motion because I just think it works it into the grain of the wood that way. And like I said, it's probably been a hot minute since this fretboard's had a drink, so it's probably going to soak this oil up pretty good. So I'm going to coat it really, really well. I think you can already see the richness of that rosewood. And if you happen to touch the finish of the guitar, it absolutely will not. You've heard me talk about that too. It absolutely will not hurt the finish of your guitar. But you can't leave it on here. You have to kind of wipe it in and then kind of get it off. If you let it dry on here for any more than, let's say, you know, 5 minutes or so, and then it starts to get a little bit tacky, and I think that's why a lot of people don't like using linseed oil, but I think it just does a tremendous job. And I got a paper towel here. I want to get I'm just going to wipe that off the finish. It's not hurting it, I just don't want to forget to do it. Okay. Give this another rub down here. And what'll happen is I'm going to do another application of this, and I'm going to let it sit for like 5 minutes, wipe it off, and then after about another 5 or 10 minutes, some of the linseed oil will start kind of weeping its way back out of the pores of the rosewood, and then you just go back and wipe that off and you're all set. But let me just show you the difference. If you go back and look at what I called the before shot and then compare it to what we've got now, man, that's like a brand new, looks like a brand new fretboard. Not bad for an 82-year-old piece of wood. Let me see if I can get you, I know there's a joke in there somewhere, but see if I can get you a shot of the whole thing. It really does help set it off from all the other cleanup and stuff that I've done. Maybe, I wonder if I stood it up, if that would give you a better shot of it there. Yeah, it turned out great. Turned out awesome. All right, so again, there's a shot of the finished fretboard. I'm going to do one more application of the linseed oil, let it actually sit on there and soak in for about 5 minutes, wipe it off, give it another 5 or 10 minutes, wipe it off again, and I'm going to be done with this. And now we just have to wait until the tuners and tailpiece and binding and all of that, and we'll get together again and work some more on getting this guitar put together and get it playable. So I'm looking forward to that. Thanks for joining me on this episode. Again, thumbs up, subscribe, invite folks over to the channel to subscribe and all of that, and I'll see you next time on the channel.